ABC News.
It's been announced today that a prequel to the film Mad Max, starring Australian actor Chris Hemsworth, will be filmed in New South Wales. George Miller will co-write and direct Furiosa for Warner Brothers. It's expected to become the biggest film ever made in Australia, with a theatrical release slated for 2023. Matthew Diener is the CEO of Screen Producers Australia, and he joins us now. Hello, Matthew.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yet another blockbuster being shot down under. It's the latest in a string of films that are currently in the pipeline in Australia at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great news because this is an incredible Australian originated story as well. So that's what we also like to see. We love the idea that, of course, there are great big productions coming to Australia, but when there's something that's been generated from Australia, we're extra proud, of course, because it goes out into the world and it showcases how great we are as storytellers, and having our own intellectual property in the mix as well is really important for a long-term sort of industry future. So today's announcement's huge and a great opportunity for a lot of creatives to be participating in this very, very large production.
Well, Chris Hemsworth will star in the film. Here's what he had to say about the opportunity earlier today.
Yeah, this is an incredible opportunity to be able to work on an iconic franchise such as Mad Max, and with iconic filmmaker. This will be my fourth or fifth film here in Australia. It's just a dream come true.
There you go, his fourth or fifth film in Australia. He's losing count.
He's a lucky man. He's able to work from home effectively.
Just how many of these big budget films are currently underway in Australia right now?
Look, I think we've got about 4 or 5 that are in production in different parts of Australia at different stages. But they're kind of the tip of a very big, iceberg effectively, or pyramid of production, because what you don't see as much of the announcements about all of the many other parts of the industry that are humming along very well. And that's a combination of lots of reasons why we're doing very well. But for today, someone like Chris, who's able to effectively be a global star but work from home, is exactly what we want. We want more of those opportunities for Australians to be able to be based here, delivering great work. So, today's great.
So how big an opportunity is this for the local industry, and how many jobs is it likely to create here in Australia?
Well, look, I think that if we get the settings right with this could be a long-term opportunity. And one of the things that the government did recently was it announced that it wasn't going to reduce an incentive for local Australian films. And of course, I think this film was likely to be treated as a local film given it's got so many Australians driving it. And that's really important because, this started out, Mad Max franchise started out as a very low budget film, and it was an opportunity to go global. And if we get the combination of both our settings right to solve COVID, and fix this as a problem that allows our industry to keep working, if we get the incentives right, and also there's a regulation setting around here which is to do with the streaming services having an ongoing stable commitment to Australia, there's no end to what we can do as a nation, because we've certainly got the skills, we've got the stories, and we've got the talent base, we've got the training programs. And really, this is a great way in which we can develop our industry so that we're a global hub, not just for people to come in and out of our sector, but to stay here and develop local stories outwards.
The reasons the sector is booming so much in Australia now, is it because we're relatively pandemic safe, or is it the funding, or is it both? Is it a combination of those factors, would you say?
Yeah, look, I think it's a combination, and it's allowing what is otherwise a risky business effectively in making these things, because you're aggregating a lot of people to come together in the one location, which is obviously difficult if you've got a pandemic happening. But if you can get the protection of our workforce right, then people can come together, and the risks of the money that goes with that are mitigated, and therefore people operate. You've also got a combination of the government really paying attention, and I do tip my hat to the Minister and the Treasurer and the PM and the state governments, because they're all paying attention to what is a really interesting industry that basically employs a lot of creative people and a lot of, practical people, a lot of, people who work in lighting and rigging and carpentry, and also script writing and directing. And so you've got this full ecology of the workforce able to operate, plus when you shoot in regional New South Wales, as Mad Max is thinking about, it drops a lot of money into an ecosystem in different parts of Australia. So you've got a government paying attention, and what they're doing is that they've extended various programs that are keeping the industry very buoyant. And so they should be absolutely credited for this. At the moment, they've extended an insurance program, which is called the Temporary Interruption Fund. As I say, they're supporting and getting back to a trim that we thought was happening, but they've recounted on that and going forward with support for our local film industry. And they're looking seriously at the regulation. But it is such a really interesting point, because if you get the government setting right and essentially the protection of our workforce right, there is really a great opportunity. And I think that's being realised in what's being done today.
So you really think that these could be setting the foundations for a long-term future of big budget films being filmed in Australia?
Look, I think that there's always a challenge, and there is a whole ecosystem to think about. And so I wouldn't want to think that we can just, relax on this. We've got a lot of other parts of the world that are also competing in the same way as we do in Australia. So it doesn't take much to think that another country will also have great incentives, and as soon as they get a handle on COVID, they will be attracting or trying to work with global blockbusters. But when we make them ourselves, when they come from Australian DNA, like George Miller, and when they're built locally, you've got a much more robust system to be able to actually continue and have a longer prognosis for our sector. I call it a protein layer that is like a long-term burn of our sector. Part of that is actually that the ABC is contributing in different ways as they do for local dramas and local documentaries. Part of it is also that Netflix is doing local stories here. So that what we see sometimes as the pinnacle of the industry, those big blockbusters, is built on the foundations of lots and lots and lots of different participants and work. So you've got to get the whole ecology right. But if you do that, you have a very secure, stable industry that's going to grow. We talked about jobs before, you're asking me. I think we've got the opportunity to double the size of our industry if we get these settings right. And there's every opportunity to do so, because I think other territories are sort of locking onto it as well and going, we want a bit of that. If Australia's got a bit of an advantage already, we've got a secure system, we've got well-trained people, we've got global stars here, both directors, writers, actors, and we've got some great producers as well that can all make it work. So, the opportunity is really big. And so if anyone's looking to be a part of our industry, there is certainly a great, chance for them to kind of develop their careers and work with the industry, because it's certainly going forward.
Certainly seems like now would be a good time. Matthew, thanks for sharing your insights today.
You're very welcome.
Matthew Diener, he's the CEO of Screen Producers Australia, joining us there.